May 2025, I joined therapists, students and thinkers from around the world at the Wisdom in Practice Symposium, the 6th European Conference for Existential Therapy held in Rome. The theme of the conference was clear, yet wide open to reflection. What are the unmet needs of existential therapy today? What's still missing in how we practice, connect and contribute to the world around us? But beyond the formal talks and roundtables, what stayed with me most were the small, honest conversations, the ones over coffee, in hallways, when you least expect them. One of those moments happened with someone I admire and respect a lot, Paola Pomponi, a UKCP accredited existential therapist and coach, EMDR practitioner, creative writer, and chair of the Society for Existential Analysis in London. Paola brings a rare blend of professional personal experience, depth, insight, and humor to her work. Someone who makes big ideas feel personal and real. We didn't plan a big formal interview exactly. We just sat down to talk. It was a moment, a shared space, a dialogue between two people in different stages of the same journey, sharing reflections on life, therapy, and the strange, beautiful process of becoming who we are. We talked about what it really means to work existentially, not just in theory, but in the messy, real moments of life and relationship. About therapy beyond technique, the courage to be yourself, and how presence, not performance, can transform both client and therapist. How absurdity, laughter, and everyday small talk, even with postman, can reveal something essential within us. If you ever wondered what therapy can be, not just a process, but a truly human encounter, I invite you to join this dialogue. Whether you're a mental health professional, a student, or simply someone moving through life with questions, I hope this conversation resonates with you as it did with me.
Round of this event, we're meeting here just to discuss something that I feel very important, like me myself going through this way, the journey of becoming an existential therapist, a trainee, although in the later stages. But still, like, it's always feels as a new. It's not something. It's quite an existential, right? That you are like, it's never fixed. It's never.
Nothing is ever fixed.
Even if you see the calendar and you kind of okay, so the time passed. I already somewhere. But still, sometimes you find yourself like, oh, I know nothing. So that's why I invited you to meet as an expert, if we could.
As an expert who knows nothing.
Kind of, yes. Yeah. Who knows more, a bit more, kind of. To share your experiences, to share your ideas. Especially, I think, when we hear things that happen here, like the narratives during the conference, the ideas of the wisdom. Or unmet needs of an existential approach. So, and I was thinking, like, what the first question, I think, what first drew you personally to existential therapy? How you got here?
Because it's interesting that you would be, I would say, at the beginning of that career, vocation, whatever it is. I'm more or less towards the end. Because I've got about 20 years experience. Not that I intend to stop until I die, I think, but I'm at the other end. And so it's interesting maybe to see how I developed in these years and how existential therapy changed me. Not just the therapy with clients, but therapy inside, how my outlook has developed.
Do you reflect sometimes?
Very often, and the more I move on in my life and career, the more I realize that I know nothing, and many things that I used to know I forgot. Which, with age you think, oh my God, I'm getting old, I'm forgetting everything, but it might be a blessing.
Oh, that's true.
Because I have a good excuse not to remember. But I think everything I learned has been digested and has become somehow part of me or part of how I perceive myself in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
And when if you look back once you started, like at the beginning and now, maybe how like
I was really interested this morning to hear at least two people who said that they became interested in existential therapy reading Yalom's book.
Yes.
I did that too. Okay. I read that book at one point in my life and I thought, oh my God, this is fantastic. I want to know more. And then I read all his books. And then I was going through a moment of transition. I wanted to change careers, I changed lots of things. And then I decided that I wanted to train as an existential therapist. So I went to look for a school in London where I could do that. And I found Regents. And then I thought, well, Regents is great because it's right in the middle of the park.
Yes, it's
so beautiful. You can sneak out and go to the garden. So that's where I'm going to go. And this is how it all started. So Yalom has made such an impact on God knows how many people. What a gift. With just a book. You read it and you feel that that is something that you have to do. Somehow you've got to do it. So what Yaki was saying, where can I train? There is no school. I kind of really resonated with me. It is like that. There's something that gets you inside, and you've got to go for it.
It's a kind of maybe a call for action, right? So
call for action, but there's something that resonates and it means so much that you really want to do it.
And
after, at least this is my experience.
And after kind of, I'm thinking about the essence, like for you, of the existential approach, therapy, the ideas, kind of your own maybe, like Yalom. We all read more or less different authors, kind of looking back.
But Yalom is so humane and so easy and funny, and it's like her grandfather, and it's so accessible that it really touches you.
And how would you maybe frame or your understanding of an existential approach, like, or the essence of it?
At the beginning, I don't think I understood anything. I just felt something. It wasn't here, it was here. Then obviously when I started my training, I started learning the philosophy and doing all the reading and the discussions. It became quite serious. Very interesting, sometimes a bit heavy. But then that became the real training. And it moved from here to here because I had to read, I had to understand, I had to write, I had to present. And so that became real studying and learning.
So it's something like, until you are not getting it through yourself in a way, like more embodied even. Understanding.
I think first is embodied, and then it becomes also rational. But that embodied feeling, I think, stays there. And I think it comes out then when you're with clients. You go back to feeling things rather than understanding with your mind. And so it's like the beginning of something that represents itself later when you're with another person in your room, discussing, talking, bonding. Then it's a feeling rather than an intellectual exercise.
So if you would again frame maybe to work existentially with someone, with a client, what it would be like?
To work existentially, I think for me, it means being with that other human being, being human myself, focusing on their story, focusing on what it must be like to be them in whatever situation they are describing, trying to guess or asking questions and being curious as if I want to put myself in their life and just hold their hand somehow. So it is really what Ernesto Spinelli says, breathing the same air, and sitting by someone, being with them. That's, for me, is the existential essence of therapy. Existential therapy.
It's again like the Heidegger said, being with.
Absolutely.
But it's more than what I hear you saying. It's beyond just some kind of a term or philosophy, but it's feeling very practical.
You feel it, and it's equal. So I'm not the doctor that cures the patient. I don't know more than my patient or my client rather does. It's just two human souls lost in a place for 50 minutes. It's just the clock that reminds you that you're doing something together. And that is something that is, I think every time it happens, it's quite magical. It's a very special feeling.
And if you like, how is important the personality or maybe the experience or the way you are as a practitioner with a person, comparing it to maybe different approaches or some tools, skills or whatever,
It's an interesting question, because sometimes I use tools, sometimes, rarely, but I do. Sometimes I do a little bit of CBT. I practice EMDR. So if it's really useful, I might use some of those tools. And I know that I'm using a tool. It's not really existential, but it's something that I do with the other person because it helps us understand what we're talking about or describing something that is going on. And why not?
Right.
Yeah. So I think the beauty of existential therapy is that it's so flexible, it's so free, that you can do whatever you think is convenient and right in that moment, in that situation with that person. That's my take. Somebody might say, no, you don't do that. Whatever. Okay, I accept that. But that's me. And I've learned throughout the years to not be afraid of just being me. Yeah. So at the beginning, you try to be really professional. Then after a few years, you get fed up and you say, whatever, this is Paola, I'm Paola, you are Max. Okay, what are we going to talk about today? Yeah. And so being me, it's honest and transparent, I guess. And with my clients, the ones who come and stay, obviously it works. The ones who don't like that, they usually come for the first sessions and they don't come back because there is no match. Fine. But with the clients that I see, I think it works well because also it gives them permission to just be themselves. Sometimes we laugh, sometimes we're stupid or silly, sometimes we're serious, sometimes we cry, and it's just us. Yeah. And I think there is a lot of freedom in that.
So kind of, if to wrap up, it's a lot about being you, like allowing first and foremost to be yourself. Right? So,
and if I allow myself to be myself, the other person at the same time will allow themselves to just be themselves. And that's where you connect. Because you get rid of all the other stuff that is not useful.
It's like a permission.
It's a permission.
We can
both
be
sides.
here. We can. Do you think existential therapy is for everyone? So there is this idea, that sometimes we hear that there should be some special people or something special in it. So
we touched on that yesterday. I think I have something that I feel very strongly at the moment. Existential therapy is perceived as something very intellectual, very philosophical, for a few elected people who are very clever. And maybe that is true,
right.
But I hope it will change, because yesterday they were talking about the unmet needs. Well, and the unmet need number one for me is that we are just a little niche of people, a small, after all, community, and we're very closed. We talk to each other, same people all over the world, but always the same, and we talk about the same stuff over and over again, which is fine. but it's a limitation of what existential therapy or existential thought really is. So what I'm wishing for is to open the door, and not let people in, but just go out, And yesterday I raised my hand, but nobody saw me, which is very disappointing. So I wanted to say you can do existential therapy in many different ways. You can go to your coffee shop and talk to the guy who's making your coffee for 2 minutes whilst you wait. You just ask him, how are you today? What time did you come here? And chances are he will tell you a little bit about his life. And it will be like a 1-minute therapy or a 1-minute existential conversation. You can talk in that way and relate to people in that way, existentially, and open up something, which could be a conversation that maybe takes place every time you go to your coffee shop, or just 1 minute of conversation. I talked to my postman, who is the most intelligent and articulate guy, who taught me about African history. He should be teaching at the university, but he's a postman. And the best philosophical conversations I had was with him, but he was teaching me. So I wanted to say, talk to your postman, talk to the guy who sweeps the road. Just say something which is focused on being there in that moment. Not just hello, good morning. No, not that. How are you today? How long have you been doing this? Are you tired? That's what you need to do. And then existential therapy will get out there. So we don't need to be therapists with the clients in the room. We just need to connect to people. People who will never be able to train, maybe don't even want to train, but we can talk to them in that way. And something will grow out of that, perhaps. It's like planting a little seed. So unless we start doing that and sort of switching in our head the way we relate to the rest of the world, if we don't do that, it's going to be a closed club for, existential whatever.
So it's in a way a matter of almost like everyday practice, like you're practicing while you're leaving. It's not just in a sense close to it, but it's kind of a mindset and orientation towards
you are
the
connecting in that way. And lately, for some reason, I talk to people about funerals and death, but not clients. Kind of friends, people I talk to. And wow, I have some incredible conversations about death and the meaning of life, Oh, you do all this, you work all your life, and then you die. What the hell is going on here? That is existential talk. So it's not restricted to a therapy room or a university or a classroom. It's out there. It needs to be out there. So and we can do it so easily.
And when I'm asking kind of now, I understand in a way that, is it for everyone? Well, it becomes a kind of irrelevant question because, while you're a human being, it's for you.
And talk to children. Children are the most incredible philosophers because they're so pure, and the stuff they say or they ask you is so existential.
It is.
Talk to children. Learn from them, but engage in a philosophical conversation with the child.
Because they are not, these things not obscured yet, so they're like
free.
Open-minded. They are not restricted by different kind of norms, requirements. You shouldn't.
And they seem to know about life in such a deep way, but natural way, until they grow up and then everything goes out. They lose it. So you can be an existential person in every day of your life in different ways, if you wanted to. So is it for everyone? Mostly. People will respond. I think.
While
Most
they are
people.
Invited, while there is this
you have
ground
have to invite them, exactly.
And Paola, how do you think the existential therapy or the whole kind of journey changes a person, like professionally and personally, obviously.
Well, it changes you because it puts you in touch with the real absurdity of life. Absurdity is my preferred
Okay.
perception. I like to be an absurdist.
Right.
I love it. So to me, it put me in touch with the fact that, yeah, well, what is this about? What am I doing here? I mean, really, is this a joke or what? Am I dreaming? Is this real? And then you have to come to terms with that and decide how you're going to play the game.
Yeah.
If you're going to play this game. So you can't ignore it anymore. Yeah, because you have to face it. It's there in front of you every time you read something, every time you go to a lecture, every time you see a client.
Yeah.
And it can be scary, or it can be just it. That's how it is.
So it's also a matter of kind of giving yourself to this. Like, it's not just that you're reading, but it's kind of accommodating.
You're accepting. It's about embracing and accepting.
Right.
That is it. Whether we like it or not, it's just we have the possibility of deciding how to go about it.
Yeah.
That's what we can choose. The rest, not much. It's out of our control, really. But there is a little choice that we can make as to, since this is the situation, what we want to do with that.
Yeah. And I think about the capacity, of course, we can stay this superficially and it just will go through you and it won't stay. But while you're kind of allowing yourself to go deeper, to connect with all this, it will change you eventually.
Yeah.
Like,
but you need to really go down and look at it, at the reality of things. Right. Then you have to allow it to exist, to be as it is, meaningless, scary, depressing sometimes. And then you can bounce back once you've looked at that, accepted it, then you can decide what you want to do about it.
Right. I was thinking about if we speak about trainees and the whole training, the journey, an insight, an attitude, or an advice that you could give to someone who is like still maybe pondering, like evaluating.
I remember two things that probably they asked me, why do you want to do this? Well, two questions I had at the beginning and my two answers back then. Why do you want to do this? Because I want to help people. Yeah,
okay.
Really. Okay. And then the other thing was about my childhood, and I used to say, I had the happiest possible childhood. Oh yeah, really? Ask me again.
Okay.
So we kind of grow with ideas in our minds because maybe we need them. But this training will actually put it at, test it. And you realize there's so many things that you thought that you were or happened to you or didn't happen to you. Maybe that was not so. And then everything shifts upside down. Yeah. And you'll be surprised because you probably at one point think, oh my God, I never knew that about me. Oh, I never knew I was such a bitch. I thought I was an angel.
Okay.
Or whatever, yeah. So, it allows you to reframe your own judgment about yourself and also how you connect to others or to the things that you want to do. So it does impact you deeply. But I think eventually in a good way.
Yeah. So
it might be a bit sort of scary sometime at the beginning because you also have to relate to your peers.
Right.
You have to go to the dreadful PPD groups where everybody says, "Oh my God, what is this for?" Ooh, but then slowly you understand that this is the journey. You have to go through that to come out the other way, changed.
Yeah. So that there is hope. There is kind of.
That's what it's all about, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah.
And how you changed, nobody knows.
Right.
You don't know at the beginning, but you will see it at the end.
Yes. But
maybe you become a monster. Who knows?
Right. So it also comes with some a risk, obviously, but so you're kind of you're taking it on board that I'm making a choice to move with that. I'm going there.
Yeah.
But there's like in life, right? So there is no certainty. Okay, there is certainty.
Yeah.
That's the end of everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, in a way that what it would be like, would it be like sometimes we speak about black and whites, right? So this is for bad or for good, but we don't know, right? So sometimes people might drop out due to the issues that just came up during this journey. They were never kind of foreseeing that. It just happened, and they are out because like they couldn't handle.
So it's an act of courage to decide to do the training at the beginning, because you're jumping into something that you don't know, the unknown, with faith that it will be a good journey, but you also know that it's going to be a tough journey. So yeah, it takes courage to decide to go and to do it. And that's great.
I think that there is also like the beginning is it's the difficult part because it's like it's unknown, right? But then again, during the journey, you're getting into some network or the supportive circle, so you're not alone anymore.
No,
you're with your own subjective experience, but still you're being kind of supported through different.
Although I do always have some trainees as clients. Sometimes they don't feel supported, sometimes they are isolated, sometimes things go wrong with their peers. So it can be painful, but that's part of the experience.
Yeah, it is. If we like go beyond the therapy room, and how do you think the existential approach, or I would define as an approach, can contribute and something more meaningful to the general public or like to the world maybe?
It depends, because it might give you a kind of dread and anguish.
Okay.
If you think about death and the finality of everything, or it can give you a sense of I'm here, I'm gonna do it, whatever it is that I have to do. So it can give you a sense of courage, perhaps, or of being grounded and being able to withstand whatever it is that is coming your way. But you never know which, because it can also create a lot of fear. You know, if I say to you, look, your life is meaningless. Okay, you can look for meaning, but really, come on, let's be realistic. And then you're going to die. You don't know when, but you're going to die. So be happy about it. What would you say to me? You say, well, you know what? I'm going to go for a beer, or 2 or 3 or 5, because that is quite sort of dreadful. But then equally I can say to you, yeah, okay, we're all going to die. But in the meantime, should we have some fun? Should we do something great? Something nice, something that we enjoy? Why not?
So it's a matter of perspective in some ways, right? We can look at this from more from the heavier kind of side of things, like to drop those hard, like how we call this, like ontological questions, rather than. So the perceiver should be ready, right? So
or they might not be ready,
or they might not, which is also okay.
But we were saying before, when I was talking about conversations with postmen or coffee makers, it's an invitation. And that's all it can be. Somebody will accept it, and some people will not. That's fine.
And continuing, like picking up from the previous question, going beyond the therapy room, if we look like the current global situation, like, and do you think like there is a place for existential therapy, like a role for it in these times of anxiety, uncertainty, which are very kind of amplified?
Well, these are times when therapy should be there, available to everyone, especially people who make decisions, who have power. Because if you think of your relationship with a client in your room, how can you then accept the fact that someone, a person, another human being can kill somebody else? I mean, would you ever be able to kill your client? No. Yet you look around, you read the newspaper, look at the news on TV. That's all you see. How can I, a human being, kill another human being? There should be no reason in the world for doing such thing. Yet we know what's going on.
Right.
That is something that is very difficult to accept and digest for me, because potentially everybody in the world could be my client, could be the other human being that I connect with.
Yeah.
How can I possibly imagine killing that person? And so for me, war is just something that I cannot make sense of it. But there again, it does exist.
Yes.
So what do? I have to accept that in the world I live in, there is also war.
Yeah.
And some dreadful things happening. Can I do something about it? Not really, other than in my tiny little circle. Yeah. But otherwise, I have not much power.
Yeah.
But maybe if you all went out and had tiny little conversations with others, that could make a change.
Yeah.
A little change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a way, it does. There is a kind of opportunity and I would say potential, but you're speaking about a particular space, your own space, which is smaller than like maybe needed for.
Yeah.
You cannot scale it, right? But you can do something with it in your own kind of space, in your own capacity, and by that kind of to contribute to the kind of I don't know, better world, maybe.
Yeah, but I feel some kind of despair because I think that human beings are also so destructive. And nobody else in nature kills anybody else, only us. We are the only
just
animals.
For
the others
reasons,
they might eat each other because they're starving otherwise. So that is for survival. But to kill people for political reasons or for power or for the sort of greed, I just
or
don't
different
understand.
Emotions that will lead to that, some feelings of resentment.
How can we be this thing that does horrible things like that? So in a way, sometimes I feel really ashamed of being human. I'd rather be a cat or a dog.
Oh.
Wouldn't you? It would be so much more respectful. I'm not happy to be a human being often because we are a bad species, I think. Evil often, not all, but a large quantity of us would be evil, or would have to respond to evil with other evil, because then it's a chain of events, right? I don't like that.
And kind of to wrap up, maybe, if the world could stay with just one existential question right now,
Existential
what it would
question.
be? What it should be?
For me, the existential question is, what am I going to do with this life?
With life?
Yeah.
The
life that I have.
Okay.
What am I going to do with it? How am I going to use it?
So this be the question for the whole world? Also, like for
me, but for the whole world, no, because somebody will say, "Oh, I've got a life. I'm going to conquer the world. Ta-da! Let's go and have a war."
Yeah.
So no, it wouldn't apply to anyone, unfortunately. So don't ask if you don't want an answer you don't like.
You have to pick up your questions.
Absolutely. And also, I think what I want to do in my life is have humor. You need a laugh to survive. So humor is a big part of my life and my therapy room, sort of my therapy practice. If I can share a laugh with my clients, it's the biggest joy that I can experience.
I remember last year at the conference in Istanbul, you were giving a talk on this subject.
Yeah.
It was
so my life without humor would be half a life.
Yeah.
So
I love this idea today from the colleague Paolo. He said that, as far as I understood correctly, that I think he was paraphrasing, quoting Lacan in a way, that the humor is another reality, or the way to access the reality of the other.
It's a different point of view.
Yeah, and it makes me think of something about the dreams in the dream work. That,
it's a different outlook.
Right. So it's the same existence as like I mean the reality, but it's
and humor looks at life in a way that is not necessarily real. In fact, it's not real. It's funny or absurd. So it is more like a dream where it doesn't matter if it's real or not. It doesn't matter if it can really happen or not. If it makes you laugh, it's okay. You can laugh at it. It doesn't have to be absolutely possible. And so, there is a kind of escaping into humor, which is good because it gives you a moment of breathing space, and then you can go back to your stuff, real stuff.
the
But it
humor
also creates
provides
a
space
bond.
for
When you share it, and the other person really share. I mean, it's on the same line. It creates such a strong bond because it's like, okay, we're both being stupid here. We know that, but it's funny. We can laugh about it because I understand what you're saying and you understand what I'm saying. That's fantastic.
Yes.
I love that. When that happens, it's wow.
So there is this consent kind of the. That's also about the dialogue, but even if it's humorous, but it's still a part of
I see
connection.
you, I hear you, and I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's the basic of connection, isn't it?
It's very much existential, like in this. Yeah, and like I think like the final we discussed so much. And is there any question I didn't ask, or the one you might ask yourself, or like the thing
No, I
that
don't
you
ask myself any more questions. I'm fed up with that.
Yeah.
So I'm just
anything that you would like to add, maybe, or kind of.
I enjoyed this conversation. This dialogue with you was fantastic. I wish I had the possibility for me to interview you, but I think we got it anyway. We shared it. So it was not an interview, it was a dialogue. And so it was really good. So thank you very much for that. It was the highlight of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Paola. Yeah, it's great.
Thank you, Max.
All right.